It's setup's fine. It's the Wi-Fi that's bad.
Just go with the Starlink or whatever that
I thought about it.
the
I don't
Elon's
know.
putting out.
I thought about it. I don't know how good it is.
Apparently, it's
And I
pretty
don't.
decent.
I also don't trust Elon, so
Oh,
I just
that's for
I
sure
just
fair.
don't. I mean, he wants us to be half alien or something. I don't. I just if I could avoid the shit he dreams up for the future, I think we'll be we'll be better off. Transhumanism is not a thing I want to do. I'm not interested in that at all. But
I
that's
mean,
just me.
I don't know. I'd be alright with like a robot arm.
Okay. Limbs. That's one thing. I don't want my brain connected to the internet. That's an issue for me.
That's pretty fair.
I
Like
mean,
no good is gonna come of it.
no. It seems evil. What, Mac? You want
Got
to
a
be a part
morbid
robot?
curiosity about it. I don't think I do. But I'm a little bit curious about it. You're probably right. Like
Yeah.
90%, you're right. But what cool stuff is in that 10% where you're wrong, you know?
I don't
So I
even
mean,
know
like,
though.
well, you could like if you had your smart home set up, which I don't, because I don't.
Which you shouldn't have either, because
That weird.
we all grew up watching Disney Channel and we've seen Smart House. We know that
That's true.
Peg Bundy's going to come
But,
in there and just give us a hard time. It's not worth it.
but you could like turn off the lights with your brain, and that would be nice.
Here's how I turn off lights. It's
It's a
just a
cool
little
idea, but
flick.
if I'm being honest with myself and it was available right now and it's like, take the pill and you've got it. Yeah, no, thank you. No,
No,
I would
probably not.
actually probably become more of a hermit and,
Well,
less trusting of everybody else.
yeah. What I would like is instead of like having like a brain chip or whatever, if we could just have like those pills from Limitless, because that seems way cool. The Bradley Cooper movie where he takes a pill and becomes super smart, and
Oh, I didn't see that
Limitless.
one.
They made a
I
show of it. I think the show's not good, but the movie was neat. It was a fun thought experiment. Like, what would you do? But there's like a
supposedly,
go ahead.
I was listening to a radio article, like a decade ago. There was technology we'll probably have in the next 50 years, and one of them was Terminator contacts. See, like a heads-up display on your contact, and you could like Google Glass, but not dumb looking.
Right. See, that I'm okay
Yeah, I think
with.
I'd be into that. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, see, that just
I
seems
don't
cool.
like. I don't like. Not. It's not augmented reality. What's the one where you like the fake one, the completely fake one?
Virtual reality.
Virtual
Virtual
reality. I
reality.
don't like that. I like augmented reality. Like
Have you ever played with like an Oculus Rift though?
no,
It's
not
pretty
any,
fun.
not anything new. The only thing that like I've ever used was like I don't know. Back in the day, you could have those. You could put like your phone in like a thing and play like stupid games.
Yeah,
That
no,
was
it's
neat.
Yeah,
different than that.
Yeah. So like
Like
I've
the
seen people.
the new ones are so immersive. It's like
yeah.
I get like too much of it's not great, you know? Like I don't like that it totally I can't interact with anybody else and do the VR thing at the same time.
No,
Like you are you're doing that. You're doing that one thing because you can't see or hear or anything else.
See,
But
I
it's
like
really cool.
it's really cool.
I like the idea of it because like if you're like working on like a car or something like that, and like you could have like the YouTube video up like in the thing, and you're in the engine bay like doing stuff. You don't have to have like a laptop or anything. Like you have tools. It's a very useful tool, but like I don't know, people take it to the extreme and make it unhealthy. Like they have like like a scene with like the Apple one where they're like walking through the house and they have like a screen on every wall. Like it's like every room they go into, like there's a video playing as they walk in the room. And
Once you like prefer the VR thing to real life, like you prefer the VR over actual real life, that's probably where the problem begins.
No, but that being said, if you have a screen set up in every room in your house and you have the smart home stuff set up, you could have a theme song play every time you enter a room.
yeah,
And that would
neat.
be really cool for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, but it also, if you're like the person, if you're the overseer of that system, you could probably put theme songs for everybody else in your family too, and
Yeah.
they'll love that.
Yeah. Especially when you have to get up to pee in the middle of the night.
Yeah, Dad's setting my theme song, so this week this is, this is what it is.
I remember growing up in school and like people like they always talk about Bill Gates's house and how like when you walked in the room, it'll adjust the temperature to the individual who walks in the room. And like we all thought that was like the most futuristic thing, and that's kind of like a normal household thing you can do now. That's not like extreme.
I was still impressed. I was one of my dad's friends is an electrician, and I was house sitting for him, and he set up um, lights in the closet that are tied to the door. So you just open the closet and the light comes on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just super cool and not hard to do. It's like I don't know why it's not a thing.
My
Like the
parents,
closets work like refrigerators.
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
my parents have a pantry like that, and you just open the door and like the lights turn on. And like when they moved in there, I was like, whoa, like that's neat. But like it's not a crazy thing to do. Like you could rig
Right.
up every door in your house to do that if you really wanted to, and it's not like
And instead of
complex.
turning the light on, play your theme song.
Well, Austin, what would be your theme song when you come into a room?
You'd think I'd be ready for that question.
No, see,
I'm,
I'm
I
asking you so I could have some time.
just throw me under the bus to start. I have no idea.
See, I was thinking for me, like maybe like the theme song for like Curb Your Enthusiasm. Bum 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 ba da 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 da. But that's just 'cause I like hearing
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with me. It's just I like hearing it.
it's fair.
Yeah, it's like what song, it's more important, I guess, what song would you want to hear that much that it doesn't start to
Oh
drive you
yeah,
crazy?
so
Well,
that
and
actually
is
would
it
drive me
like
crazy.
the whole thing every time or just like a 10, 15-second clip?
10, 15 seconds. It's WrestleMania rules.
All right.
Yeah, it's just it's the Stone Cold entrance every time, glass breaking.
Yeah, there's very different rules if we're talking about WrestleMania as the room or, my living room.
Yeah, well, that's fun. But I guess we should do an intro. So,
I mean, maybe.
I mean, just so we can announce who our guest is. Our guest here is Mac Dillman, AD lightweight extraordinaire. Um,
Mm.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Now I hit the big time. That you guys are like 60 minutes for the Highland Games, This
Yeah,
is kind of as big as it gets right now,
Pretty
I
much,
like
yeah.
I like to think we're top tier when it comes to Highland Games entertainment.
easily.
One of the top 10 Highland Games podcasts out there right now.
That's what
Oh,
I heard.
for sure, top 10. Yeah, because there's three. What's new with you, Mac Dillman? I haven't talked to you in a hot minute.
I am reveling in my off season, but it's this little sweet spot right now between throwing season and my winter activities where I coach robotics. So I'm about
I'll
to be
say it's
100%
robot
absorbed in
time.
that. Yeah, it's robot time is ramping up and throwing time is ramping down, and I get to just eat garbage and lift heavy for a few months. So I'm really just trying to enjoy that.
No.
It was very cool. I haven't been able to lift for the last couple days. I hurt my finger with a knife, and I can't really grab a barbell right now. So that's fun.
Get,
That's how my off season's kind of falling into.
do you have figure
But
eight straps?
no,
Yeah.
I we'll see. Like I can squat, um, and I can do various things, but like having to hold a bar in any way is difficult. So I say difficult. It hurts a lot, and I just can't. It's hard to grab things without your middle finger. Like it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But so hopefully that gets fixed so I can start training again because I was kind of hitting a groove there for a moment.
No, we can't have that.
How long is that out of commish?
Dude, I don't know. I should go to the doctor and have them look
Yeah.
at it and have a good idea. But my
What are they
thought
going to
is
tell you
like
that you don't already know?
that's what I'm thinking because like I didn't hit a nerve. I didn't hit an artery or anything. This wasn't down to bone. I just took like a nice chunk out of it, like a pinky sized, like pinky tip, like hole out of my finger. So they're just
Can
going to
you
tell me.
tape them together like a lobster claw or something, or would that not help?
I don't think that'll help,
Mm.
but I do have it bandaged up pretty nice, and that's all. I think if I can, I mean, if I can speculate here, I'm no doctor. That's all they're going to do for me, just bandage it up and say, "Oh, keep a bandage on it, and then take it off twice a day and clean it or whatever." I can do that. I don't need to go somewhere for them to do that for me. But maybe I'm just being a tough guy about it. I don't know.
I
I
mean,
don't know. Sounds to me like you're not lifting.
That's well, they're not going to give me some magic pill that's going to fix it and let me lift. So,
Mm.
you
but
just have to suffer through, right?
Yeah, or get really strong on the other side and then catch up when you're better.
I
Yeah,
thought about
the
doing like single arm dumbbells or something, and that seems ridiculous.
Circus dumbbells.
yeah, no, just get really good at single arm barbell snatches, just as like
Thought
a
about
party
that.
trick.
That's exactly like we're in the party trick mode where like we can't like actually train. It's like do silly stuff. I'm just gonna be flipping plates around and catching them and see how many I can do in a row or some stuff like that. But it's a
Mm.
finger, so like hopefully like a week or two it should be fine. Fingers heal fast.
But it just has to not hurt. It doesn't have to heal
Right. I
all
need
the
to be
way.
able to like bend it without it like bleeding a lot, which um I mean I guess it is a concern. It's been a couple days and it still bleeds. So well, I don't know what
That's
that
not
means.
great.
No, but
I'm
it's
not.
not arterial blood. It doesn't seem to be, so
I,
it's not it doesn't squirt.
That's just surface blood.
Yeah. That's it's
It's probably
venous.
fine.
It's
yeah,
yeah.
you don't need that.
That's probably fine.
Yeah,
Yeah. For a moment there I was alarmed at how much blood was actually coming out. I was like that's a lot.
yeah.
But I was like no, because if it was like actually like concerning, it would be a whole lot more. So I calmed myself down about that.
Yeah,
So was
do
it
give
like
us an update on this another time though.
Yeah.
was it to the point where like if this doesn't start slowing down in the next like 5 minutes, I'm gonna have to go to the ER? Was it that bad or
No, because like I'm aware of how much blood a person can lose before like like it's generally concerning, and I wasn't hitting that because it's actually it's a surprising amount of blood that you can lose from an injury before like you got to think of like tourniquets and things like that. So I wasn't too worried about it, but enough finger talk. Okay, last thing about the finger. The worst part about like injuring your hand or your finger is that like you're not walking around a boot, you don't have a cast on, like you don't have a freaking neck brace. It's like you're just like crippled in like the silliest like non-visible way. Like I'm having trouble like grabbing things just because I can't use that middle finger, and no one
th-
else recognizes that it's like a real big problem for me.
There's nothing that stops you from getting a full arm brace and putting it in that.
Yeah, I could
Just
probably
sling
rustle one of
down.
those
Yeah.
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't have to explain why I'm wearing a whole arm brace to anyone. That's my business. So, but are you wearing a sweater vest?
Yes.
All right, cool. I just noticed
Oh, I
that.
didn't see that.
Yes, sweater vest season.
Sharp, sharp.
Freaking nerd. Well, let's get into it, Mac. Can you give us like a bit of a give us a rundown of who you are, kind of I guess how you got into the games, stuff like that. Your sporting
Sure,
background.
sure. I did not come into the Highland Games like by way of any strength sports or anything. Like I wasn't even aware of them until after I was thrown for a while. Um, and high school, I did the school sports. I wrestled, I played lacrosse, I did some distance running, and lacrosse.
I'm writing it down. Don't worry.
Yeah, I saw you make a tally there. Uh, yeah, if, just so we don't have to circle back on that, I was the least broy bro on the lacrosse team, if that means anything. Um, so anyway, uh, after that in college, I had no desire to do any of those things anymore. So I got real into like outdoor sports all through college. That was kind of the thing I put all my time into was like rock climbing, mountain climbing. Um, I helped, I ran our outdoor club. I helped run our ski club. So lifelong skier. And um, there was a point there where I got into a study abroad where we went to Africa. We trained and we studied and we went to Africa and we climbed Kilimanjaro, which was very cool. And that was the first time that I ever got to like do any significant travel. And I kind of got the travel bug from that, and since then, that's been a big thing. Is that if I get the chance to go someplace, I'm going to go. And let's see, where did that go? After college, I tried to keep doing those things, and it got harder to do because it's harder to get a group of people together, and it's harder to find somebody to go climbing with, and that sort of thing. So that all tapered right off, and I was not loving. I was getting out of shape and not loving it. So I needed to train for something because I just have absolutely no success at all training unless I have something on the calendar to train for. I can't just go to the gym. Um, so I needed a thing, and I said, what would be kind of cool is I would like to try running a marathon, and it's not going to get easier if I wait. So let's do this now. And that was the thing. And I trained for distance running for, I guess like something like half a year. I was in about 5K shape and did a whole marathon training program. Did a half marathon, did a full marathon, and I had all these other runs on my list. Like I was going to do those on the calendar after that, all these Spartan runs and things like that. And I fucking hated it so much that I stopped running forever. Like it was so much more, distance running was more abusive than anything else I ever did. I had more injuries and I was more hurt all the time from distance running at that distance than from lifting heavy or anything else. So I dropped that and was immediately looking for something else to do. Um, and I kind of remembered seeing Highland Games years ago. Like when I was in high school, I went to the local festival, went to Altamont where you came through with us this year, and that was the first time I saw any of it. And I didn't really know anything about it, but it was just so much to take in. It was amazing. So all the pipes, the kilts, and the big guys throwing the heavy stuff, and I can't remember who the pros were who were throwing there at the time. Definitely, the Barons were there. This was like 2008. So Will Barron, Dave Barron, I think Dan Dillon, I remember being there, some other guys, and I just like tucked it away in the back of my mind, and I didn't, I was 160 pounds, soaking wet. I was like, these guys are built like small appliances or large appliances. I'm not gonna, this isn't my scene. And I sat on it for a long time, and then decided after distance running that that's the thing I'm gonna do now. Um, And I can't stress enough that I knew nothing about it. I had no throwing background. I had no strength training background at all. I wasn't aware of the throwing community at large. I wasn't aware of like NASGA or the rules or any of that. Um, I went on the festival website and I read what was there about the events, which was nutty. It was not, it was, it was wacky. It gave a little summary, like a little paragraph about each of the events, and I went with that, and I just dove in, right? So they explained kind of like what the events were, what the weights were, and I remember it said something like, you know, a typical average caber is about 20 feet long and 120 pounds. And I said, oh, okay, and I made one of those, and the rest of the stuff, you know, it gave weights, but it didn't give any other specifications. It didn't say, you know, like how long the weights were supposed to be with the handle. It didn't say, God, it didn't say anything. So I made all of my gear because again, I had no idea that you could go buy these things. I made heavyweights. I made a heavyweight and a lightweight out of stones. You know, fixed a chain to stones and used the stones and as heavyweight. Still have them actually. Um, I picked out rocks that were bonkers sizes because again, you know, they gave a range. It was like open stone, you know, 18 to 20 pounds typically. Braemar stone, more than that. So I made a sheath bag, but I couldn't do it right. So it was about 11 pounds and it was really, really big. Uh, I went to Lowe's, bought a pitchfork that
Yeah.
had five tines on it. And I think I practiced once with it. And what else? Yeah, the 120 pound, 20-foot long caber. And I just kind of started doing, you know what else? I bought Matt Vincent's books and I found his YouTube channel. And so that was it. That was everything. And I worked on that for like 8 months. Um, and I emailed the AD incessantly. I made myself such a pain in his ass. And I said, you know, I emailed him like every couple of weeks, like, hey, you know, my name's Mac Dillman. I really want to do this. You know, I learned about it and I've been training. And do you have a spot for me? Do you have a spot for me? I also learned about the lightweight class, which the website told me was 190 pounds. Awesome. So I worked at 190 for like 2 or 3 years before anybody told me that it was 200. Um, so I mean, I was just training for this, um, without getting a response. And my plan, I guess, was just to show up on game day and with my kilt and say, "Hey, can I do this?" And you know, towards the very end, when it was, you know, this was when it was still a 2-day festival, I finally got a response, and he was like, "I don't know, it's like it's kind of tight." And I said, "How about if I come on Saturday and I shag weights and I volunteer on the field and help out? You let me throw on Sunday?" And he's like, "All right." So that was the deal. And my whole goal was not to come in last. And I think I got like fourth out of seven and got stomped by the guys that kind of knew what they were doing. So, you know, that at that point it was, in this area, lightweights, you know, Chris Sickler and Jed Lamont, and they just beat the living snot out of me. But I kept coming back, and you know, those first couple of years, that was the only game that I was doing. That was the only game I was aware of, really. And they started telling me like I would come back each year with the very same numbers that I threw last year, and they would come back even better. And I'm like, what are you doing that you're getting better every time I see you? And I'm not. Like I thought it was all, you know, it was like the newbie thing. Like I thought it was all strength, and I'm like, I'm getting stronger, but I'm not throwing any better. And they were like, well, we just did, you know, this is our fifth game this season, you know, and I was like, wait a minute, there's more. And they, you know, I start figuring out like, if I'm willing to drive a couple of hours in either direction, like there's games every weekend. We're like this part of the country. We literally have one or two, or next season, like 3 games that we can drive to from here every weekend. So from there, it's like, it just picked up steam. I started going more places, getting advice from people, meeting new people, and and started actually getting better.
Very cool. So let's backtrack. So when you ran a marathon, how many marathons have you ran?
One.
One, just one.
That's all you need.
One. I
That's
did
true.
it. I checked that box.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, same.
So like when you're training for the marathon, like what program did you use? Do you remember what that was? We're using like
Oh,
the Hal Higdon um, training programs.
that that sounds familiar.
Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
like the
that
one
may
that
have been
like
it.
everyone uses. Like there's like 10 of them, and like you just kind of pick one, and it tells you how many miles to run on what day. I did that. I ran a
Yeah,
marathon, and I did that training program, and I loved the training for marathons, especially like in the summer, like it's hot, like just breaking a sweat in the middle of the day running and like by yourself. Like runner's high is a real thing, and it's pretty cool. Like it's very euphoric and fun. But
yeah,
like the actual race, man, sucked. It was just boring. It was so boring. It took
yeah.
forever.
Everybody, all the family who came to watch was like trying to be supportive, but they were just bored as hell for like 4 hours, just waiting for me to come back around again. It was not like the first. I think I started this in January, and from January through March, snow on the ground. I did the first 3 months of this training on a treadmill, and that sucked. But getting outside was fun. There's just like a happy distance that I like that my body will tolerate, and beyond that, it's just kind of punishing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The race I ran was in Springfield, Missouri, and at the is at the Bass Pro Shop,
The
and
Bass Pro Marathon.
yeah, it's the Bass Pro Marathon, and so my family was just like they had a big aquarium there, so like they were entertained, but it's hard to be entertained at a Bass Pro Shop for 4 hours, even if they have an
Yep.
aquarium. So I did it. I checked that box, and I moved on. I haven't ran
Nice.
since.
I am not.
Yeah, yeah. I got to have a very good reason now.
So did you? So you found Matt Vincent videos, and you got his training book. Which training book did you get? Was it Training Lab or Throws Lab?
I got both of them, and honestly, I could not understand them. I had no idea what he was trying to tell me about either thing. I like the lifting stuff. I picked up, some good lifts. Like prior to that, I don't know if I'd ever touched barbells before. So, just even getting my hands on barbells and starting somewhere definitely became helpful later. But I didn't find the throwing lab useful until I had a few seasons in, because he's trying to point out very specific cues and pointers, and all the pictures are like little black and white stills and stuff like that. So I had no idea what I was looking at.
Yeah,
I had to
I,
do it wrong a few hundred times before any of that was helpful.
yeah.
I
I've
think
never
that's just
looked at
true.
what's that?
I think that's just true. I can give you all the advice you want, but until you have a few hundred reps under your belt, none of it's gonna mean anything.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've never looked at the Throwing Lab. I've looked at Training Lab. I got that book. That's one of the first like pieces of throwing material that like I really like dug into. Um, but for like the lifting portion of that book, um, his set reps and percentages are asinine. Dude, uh, he was on something else. Like, because I've tried it. I tried it like exactly how he prescribes it. It's too much work. It is way too much work. So I've over the years I've modified it, and every now and again I'll go back and like reference it, especially for like his like speed and power blocks. I think those are super beneficial. His strength blocks are, I mean, it's sub 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 maximal weight, like 85 to 95%, and just do that in various rep schemes makes perfect sense. But like everyone kind of does that. But the speed blocks I think are actually pretty good.
Hmm.
But yeah, I did. Just like everyone else, like I dug into his YouTube videos, and I found that super beneficial. But until you actually throw, until you throw the lightweight 1,000 times, It is very difficult to understand any of it. At what point when you got into the games did you start getting like super involved? Because you're kind of like a point man up in like the New York area, in the Northeast, or yeah, Northeast. When did that
Um,
start happening?
so let me think. Like COVID year 2020 was an off year. I didn't throw it all. And then coming back for 2021, I actually made up a calendar of games. I did a little bit of legwork to find them and made up a calendar and said I'm going to do as many of these as I can do. Um, and that was the first year that I felt like I started to see any improvement in my own game, and I realized how much I was gaining from going places and competing more and throwing with different people and mixing it up. That was huge, just meeting different people. So everybody that I met had something to tell me, and everything improved my game. But I was at that point, Altamont was the only game that was local to here. Maybe one other. And besides that, I was either driving anywhere from 2 to 4 hours east into New England, or 2 to 4 hours west towards Buffalo to get to games. And all of the people who I knew lived out there. Nobody I knew lived near me, so I had nobody to train with. And I really liked going out west to all of the Buffalo Heavies games. Um, and they had such a good thing going. They had such a good community built there. And I was like, you know what? If Buffalo can put together a community of people like this, and a whole set of games like this, there's no reason that Albany can't. So I got the idea in 2022 to start the throwing club, and um, that was at first mainly about just trying to generate a little bit more interest around here, to get some people to train with, to maybe get some people to carpool with, to get some people who want to get into it. So that started with the first event was a training day, and that first training day, like once I started the club, like it wasn't legit. It was a Facebook group, and the Facebook group had nobody in it, so I could post and nobody would see it. So I realized, like, all right, gotta get the word out here. I ended up doing flyers, and I canvassed the whole area with flyers. I stopped at every gym, and I stopped at every Irish bar, and I stopped at every place where throwers would be hanging out, and I put them everywhere. And I got, for that first training day, I had somebody come in from outside of town to help coach, and so it was me, two people actually. It was me and two others, providing some coaching. And I think grand total there was 12 people there, which felt pretty good. Um, Skipped a step there where I had taken a whole little nest egg of side hustle money and bought all of the equipment. So I already had my stuff for the lightweight class, and I just said, you know what? If I'm gonna start this thing, I want everybody to be able to come. So I hit up Mike Landrich, who's kind of our local ironmonger, and I said, Mike, give me one of everything. And he said, everything, everything? I said, yeah, everything, one of everything. And he's like, you want like heavyweights and wobs? Yeah, one of each. For every weight, yes. And it's like, all right, cool. So I don't have to worry about that ever again. But
Yeah.
could have probably phased that out. Um, so anyway, we did our training day, and um, later we had one other event kind of fall into our lap later in the year. We were out in the wild, and my dad's ringtone goes off, which is bagpipes, and it's very obnoxious, and he loves that about it. But some dude heard that, and he like stopped what he was doing and came over to us like, "You got Scottish?" And my dad's like, "Yeah." And so he was telling us about this Scottish parade that was going on in this tiny little town near us called Argyle. And I kind of tucked that away in the back of my mind, and turned out later the parade turned into something of a festival, and I called him up one day and said, hey, how would you like it if we came and did some things, exhibitions, crowd events, walk on stuff. And we did that first year, sheaf toss and stone put and some stuff, just fun stuff for the crowd. That was our first year. And then into 2023, things picked up a little bit. We got a second event going on in the springtime, at a brewery in another Scottish town, sort of on the other side of the city. Um, and this one just fell into my lap too, because people were starting to send me this flyer. These guys made this flyer up, and it was for a Scottish Games in this town real close to me. And people were like, are you doing this? And I said, no. Are you doing this? No. And we checked around, and none of the ADs in New York knew anything about it. So I called these guys and said, what's this about? And they said, oh yeah, we're a brewery, and we got this big space, big grassy area. We're gonna put on a Highland Games. We're gonna do a whole Scottish day. We're gonna have all the traditional events. We're gonna have keg tossing and tug of war and all the big ones. And I said, okay, we should talk. And I went and talked to him a little bit and kind of explained the games to him, at least the events we know. And they had us out to do an exhibition there too. We did our training day that second year, and we went from 12 people up to about 20. And then later that year, 2023, we turned the Argyle event from exhibitions into a games, which was our first real games. So that also, let me think, that wasn't the last thing. We also have a game that we do in New England, which is we don't really own it. It's a collab. It's an Empire Throwing Club event, but it's kind of co-hosted with some New England ADs that run it as a season closer. It's draws a really good crowd. 40 plus throwers the last couple of years. It's not a festival. It's a backyarder, but it's a big backyarder. And then this year, things ramped up a little bit more. The game at the brewery turned from exhibition into a proper Highland Games. We did our training day again, and that got up to 35 people this year, which is really cool. And then Thistle Day, the Argyle event, that one turned into, we had our second Highland Games there this year, which was again over 40 registered throwers and kind of a good mixture of the Buffalo and New England crowds. So that was a fun one. We did the Old McDonald's Farm game again this year, again big turnout. We also had a fun one fall into our lap this year with the Long Island Celtic Fest. That one's odd. That one's a little strange. I was aware of it. But I was aware that it wasn't really I don't know how else to say it. It wasn't a real Highland Games. Sorry, Long Island listeners. The NASGA rules have a few things hammered out. You've got to have at least 5 events. One of those events has to be caber toss. You got to wear kilts. You got to do certain things, check certain boxes. And Long Island, if you've never been there before, is very insular. They do things their own way, and they like it that way very much. They've run their games there for like 40 years or more than that. Maybe I could be wrong about that. But you won't find it in NASGA because they never seem to do enough events, and they don't post scores and all that. But I got a cold call this year from the guy who runs the venue. And apparently there was some kind of a falling out between the clan society that previously hosted the event and the venue where they would host it. And so the venue was saying, like, the guys that normally put these games on for us, they're not going to be back this year to do it. And but we still want to do it. And so we've been calling around looking for somebody else who can provide the equipment and put on a games like this and have it be fun and be safe. And can you do it? And they gave us a budget, and I said, yeah, sure, like we'll make that happen. So we kind of put together a ragtag team of pros and good AMs, and went down to Long Island to put on a show, and did sort of a half day of exhibition and a half day of crowd events, walk-ons, which turned out fun. And I think they want us back for next season, which is very cool. But I'm looking at it a little closer and trying to figure out how this can be built onto a little bit and make this into a legit Highland Games. So yeah, that's this season up to this point. I just kind of keep snowballing. I keep training and competing, and the more I do, the more people seem to want to reach out and say, "Hey, what do you think of this? Do you want to help with this, or do you want to be involved?" If I can, I will.
Yeah. So when you made that Facebook group and you weren't getting anyone jumping in on that, no one was seeing your post, why you made like actual like flyers and you just pinned them on billboards and stuff? That is
Yeah,
that is
I
that's
had
nuts.
I yes.
That's a
uh,
because you're kind of you're a technology guy. That is very analog.
Yeah, well, I would say a social media novice. So I
Okay.
didn't really know how to take, a zero presence and a zero budget and turn that into a following of the right sorts of people. So I thought, this is maybe a brute force method, but I think it worked. I mean, some of the people now who are club members who have been here since the start and have become some of the most dedicated people. They're buying their own gear, they're training, they have their own momentum. They came because they saw a flyer.
Yeah, I like the idea. I've just
Do you still have?
I never thought of that.
Do you still have a copy of the flyer?
Yeah, yeah, I probably have more than a few. Um, Man, I was like, when I tell you, like, I was trying anything and everything. Like, I sat at my computer for some time, and I just punched in like gyms, Albany area, and I got 150 gyms. Every Orange Theory and every Metabolic and every there was some good Iron Pit, strongman type gyms in the mix too. But I mean, I was going to these like CrossFit garage gyms and stuff like that. And if they weren't open, I was stuffing flyers under the door. And if they were open, I would go in there and hand them one. And it was so funny, man. Like some people were really into it and they had heard about the Highland Games before and they kind of knew what this was. And it might be a little, quid pro quo, like, hey, will you distribute our material at your event? And yeah, sure, absolutely. Or sometimes they were just like, dude, get the fuck out of here. Like, we're busy. I don't know what this weird skirt magic is you're pushing on us, but get out of here.
So
So
I'm
I mean,
just I'm just I'm imagining like flyers or just like you ever watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where
oh
they-
yeah,
they're trying to get like cool dudes to like come hang out with them, like join the gang. And it's like it's a bicep, but it
yeah.
doesn't.
That's the shape that I used for the flyers
You
was
just
the
have a
bicep.
caber and then the hammer and a weight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen them? I didn't know you
But like for
saw
cool
these flyers.
dudes, strong dudes, like shirts
Must
off.
be in good shape.
Yeah, underline
Yep.
that.
Yeah, that was the only time that I did flyers. After that, I was like, you know what? This is going to be word of mouth and good web presence from here on out.
Yeah, that's that's cool. So like so being as though you've like AD'd multiple games now, what's one of your biggest struggles as an AD?
Um, Biggest struggle, just being spread through too thin. Like I enjoy the event planning aspect of it, and I enjoy the aspect that's running the club. But like, it's not what it is now. Isn't really what I had in mind when I started. The idea when I started was get a training group going, and now the training group has turned into that plus we hold 5 events a year, which is just has just increased and increased. And while I enjoy doing it, I'm the one who's loading and unloading gear at home. I'm the one who's got to transport things around. If everybody else makes a trip to the venue one time for the games, I'm making that trip like three times beforehand to do all kinds of setup and have meetings. Um, I don't have like an army of people. I have a handful of people who are very helpful and willing to do anything. I've started, that's been a difference that I've noticed this last year, is that before an event, I'm getting a text like, "Hey, what do you need? And can I help? And can I ferry some stuff there for you so you don't have to jam as much in your truck?" Like all of that's great. I am still our amateur graphic designer, our amateur web guy, our amateur fabricator, our amateur AD. I mean, all of the things, right? And when an event's over with, I can feel good about it, but I'm really glad that it's over and it's in the rear view, and that's the feeling.
Do you feel like you're having to like pick up like new skills like as you're going through this? Like you're like, I got to brush up on my graphic design because no one else is going to make my logos and stuff like that.
A little. I mean, a lot of that is stuff I have a little bit of background in, like enough to be dangerous, but it's mostly stuff that I don't mind. What I am absolutely trash with is the business side of the club. So we operated for about a year as just like a Facebook group,
Hmm.
and then after that, once we started looking into doing events, and I realized that like these costs were going to keep on coming, I couldn't be footing the bill for those things, and we needed to get Uncle Sam involved. So we incorporated and became an LLC, so that we could conduct business. And nobody wants to deal with you if you're just like a rabble of weird people who throw rocks. We needed to have a bank account. We needed to have a tax ID number and all of that stuff. And so it wasn't hard to set up, and someone who knows what they're doing is probably very easy to run an organization of this size. But that's where the learning curve has been. It's like there's forms to fill out, there's schedules to keep that have to do with keeping the business legit. There's insurance to worry about. There's finance stuff, tax stuff that that's not my wheelhouse. So I get a lot of help on those things.
What made you decide to go that route instead of like a 501c3?
Um,
Because for like a throw, like in my mind, like for a throwing club, like a 501c3 seems perfect because it seems like less of a hassle,
it
and it like
was
it
harder. It was
regulates
harder to set up.
size. Okay.
So it was probably two. It was two big things. One was that we wanted the the like the personal legal protection that the LLC provides, and it was also a lot more steps to set up a federal 501c3.
Sure.
Incorporating as an LLC in the state of New York was relatively straightforward. Um, in hindsight, we could have, for about the same amount of work, we could have incorporated instead as a nonprofit charity, and then as a second step pursued federal nonprofit status. And we may still do that. It's kind of on the table for longer term goals. That would open up new sources of revenue where we could accept charitable donations and things like that. Um, there's no reason for us to be a for profit because we don't profit. If we profit, this year it was kind of a trial year in that regard. Like last year, I think we posted a loss of $3, which felt pretty good.
That is pretty
This
good.
this year, I think we may have made out slightly in the black. And with that, we were able to run a number of good days, good programs. We were able to invest in some new equipment. So we picked up a couple of sponsors this year that made life easier and made all that stuff possible. Um, but nobody takes home anything. It still takes out of our pockets a little bit. So I would love to be able to do that. A lot of, we've started getting involved in some charity projects and things like that. I feel like that's got to be where we're headed, is restructure ourselves as a nonprofit.
Do you feel like, oh gosh, I'm trying to figure out like the best way like to word this that doesn't sound off like so like no one's making money in the Highland Games, especially like as an AD. Um, do you feel like more games should treat it more of a business, and like more groups should treat it more of a business in order for it to grow? Or do you think that's just something that you guys decided to do? It works for you.
Mm, no, I think people should do whatever they want to do. I think if people are if people want to throw a backyard games, or they want to maybe work within a festival to put on athletics, use use what you have and go as far as you want to go. If you have a festival and they want to work with you and they want your help administrating athletics, that's great, cool, go with that, do that. You should do that. If you don't have a festival, but you have a handful of willing people who want to put a games together, and you're willing to, like, do this at somebody's private property and just get a 1 day insurance rider for doing it, whatever that looks like for you, then that's what you should do. Um, but if you want to go the route that I went, you got to have an honest conversation with yourself about how invested are you, because you can make a Facebook group and you can get some people together who want to train with you. But if you want to start hosting your own events and you want to start making it financially self-sustaining, it's going to require some work beyond throwing the rocks. And I've been happy and willing to do it so far. But I can see where a lot of people would have said, "This isn't what I signed on for. I don't want to do this anymore."
And if you are thinking about directing a games, just send an email to festivals around you, and I bet a whole bunch of them will be like, yeah, no, come on out. It's weirdly easy to get that tacked on to existing festivals.
Yeah, yeah, especially like even just having success one time, it's amazing how that can turn into something bigger and better the next year. So like the couple of games that we are running started as exhibition things. They weren't gonna pay. I didn't they even if they offered to pay us that first year, I didn't accept, because I didn't want them investing money in us on an empty promise that, we were gonna bring a crowd and we were gonna make this day fun. So we didn't take money on those first couple of exhibitions. I brought my gear out. We threw, and we took crowd signups, and people had a great time, and good pictures and good PR from that. And then the next year, when we said, "Hey, we want to take this up a notch, and we want to turn this into a Highland Games," and now instead of bringing 6 people out, we're gonna have 20 to 40 people out with their families who are going to come, and they're going to be patrons to this festival, and they're going to we're going to put on a bigger show. It's going to be all day. We're going to still do these extra things that you want. Like at the brewery, we still do keg tossing after. And that's a crowd walk on thing that anybody can sign up and do, because it's at the brewery. So we got to toss kegs. We just have to.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and the Thistle Day Festival, that celebration celebrates 2 things: their Scottish roots and their agricultural roots. And so, the sheaf toss has been a really popular one there, because everybody there understands a pitchfork. So, this year we added that, and we had a little kids Highland Games there this year. So, those in those small ways, we've been able to just find a way to do a little bigger and a little better each year. We got some cool stuff lined up for 2025 for sure.
Nice.
So you are a national and world's level lightweight competitor. How's what's it like trying to get to the top?
Well, I'm a rankings guy, so it's fun. Um, you know, I understand like the flaws in our ranking systems in general, but man, I watch them. Uh,
My man.
I get it. I have no illusions about my spot on the leaderboard right now. I mean, like, there's, this season, there's some guys that have been a little bit, they've been missing. Yeah, I don't know why. It seems like a lot of guys either took the year off or they had a very, very light year. There's some other guys that haven't put up their best marks this year, and it's not because, I don't think that they're like can't do it anymore. It's just life happens. So, they threw 2 games instead of 7, and they got the marks they got, whatever. Like, I think the first time that I became aware of the rankings, the lightweight rankings, I was like 100 and something, 150th. And then I think the next year I jumped up to like 40 something, and
Yep.
that was very cool. And then from 40 something, it was in the 20s or something. I think that that's the year that I ended up getting the Nationals invite, or no, maybe it was the year after that. But I was well outside of the top 10, and somebody explained how the invites work to me, and I was like, so you're saying there's a shot? You're saying that in like 17th place, I could get an invitation, and I think that's what happened. It was that I got in off of like a whole bunch of passes, and so then
What
it
year
was
was that? Do you remember?
that had to be Utah, so that would have been like 2022 Nationals or 23.
23.
So then it was next season, I'm going to qualify outright. I'm going to make it into the top 10 under, and it'll be my prerogative to pass if I want to pass. Um, which I had to. This last season sucked for that reason. I pushed and pushed and pushed to get those rankings, and I couldn't make nationals because of a wedding, and I couldn't make worlds because of my own games. So, um,
I told you to reschedule both of those.
I rescheduled. I didn't reschedule my own wedding. I did move the venue of my own wedding for Worlds at Mountain
See,
Home.
it's been done. All you had to do is just
Yeah.
talk to her, tell
yeah,
her like, I know you have a thing, but
yeah, it was on my mind, but you know what? It was immediate family. So what are you going to do? But it's looking good now. I now it's like to the point in the rankings where that is like that's what drives all of my training. Like that's what drives the focus of my training for the year because it's a goal, right? It's something to work at and it's something to chip at. Maybe it's not perfect, but whatever. Like if I'm looking at the rankings and I'm looking at the guy right above me and I see that I'm like 40 points off of him, I'm going to look at my events and I'm going to think about how I'm throwing right now and which event do I think I have room to push right now. Where can I get 40 points? And if it's a matter of getting like 2 feet on a stone, like that's probably not going to happen. But if it's a matter of getting 1 foot on sheaf and 1 foot on stone, well, that's doable. So then that week I'm drilling the shit out of stones and I'm drilling the shit out of sheaf, and I'll go to that next game and try and make those marks. But that's been cool for the overall aggregate. But this year I'm like I still want that. I'm still kind of pushing at that. I want to crack that 7,000 seal,
Mm-hmm.
but I throw a lot of games. I throw like 12 games a year the last couple of years. And it's hard to develop consistency. So when I show up to championship games, I haven't performed all that well. The one time I was at nationals was, second from the bottom. The last time I was at worlds, right in the middle of the pack. I can't beat Austin to save my life. Uh, so, I need to develop that consistency. So I've started looking not just at that aggregate for the season, but at my season high game score. Like I'll look at all of my 9 event games and say, what's been my best game this year, or what's been my the average of my top 3 or whatever. So there's still guys who are in the overall rankings a little bit below me who can outthrow me for sure head to head because their single game score is higher than mine is. But those numbers are just kind of interesting to me. So I watch them and I play with them and use them to find a little motivation or guide the training.
How
yeah,
much do
that's
you look at your bottom throws. I don't know. There's probably a better word for it, but like, do you kind of follow, like, if you just roll out to the field and throw, like, what number can you count on, even if it's a bad day?
Yeah, those are the numbers that I use to make predictions. Like when I'm going around to the local games up here, I have a pretty good idea who I'm going to be throwing against, and I know which games are going to throw which events, and so certain things become fairly predictable. I'm going to throw with Jed a lot. I'm going to throw with Mike Burby a lot. I'm going to throw with a handful of other people, a little less, but everybody up here, all the lightweights that I throw with up here are good enough to be challenging and try and kind of push each other. Like there's not room for error, so if I bomb out, if I screw up big, that's enough to lose a win or to lose a podium if I screw up big. So um, I have to be able to count on those low marks to make those predictions and feel safe in an event. Like I can tell you most days what my low mark for hammer should be, knowing the field or knowing the implement or knowing how I'm training. It's like, yeah, if I'm not hitting 100 feet in light hammer, I've made a big mistake, you know, and somebody else is going to have a very good day to beat me in light hammer. So yeah, I keep those low marks in mind, but uh, in training, I don't know. I log the good ones. The bad ones are like a series of curse words written in my notebook. Like, this was, yeah, that's how I know I had a rough day.
It just says laces out.
Well, like I keep the log. I'm a logger, so I keep the log book going all the way back to 2016. And so if I'm having a bad day, I'll flip back to this point last year, to see am I at least doing better in July than I was doing in July last year. Um, and sometimes a year ago, it's like a bunch of fucks and shits, and it's like, yeah, all right, I'm doing a lot better than I was in July last year. And if it's a really bad day, I'll go all the way back to 2016 because nothing makes you feel better than that.
Yeah. So they're actually on my Instagram, but there's some video from the very first games I did. So if training is going rough, I can go back and look at that and be like, at least it's not that anymore.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of that first game footage, and I've got some first practice footage, which is a doozy.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I
I had built, like I said, I told you I built my practice gear. Let me tell you about this hammer, okay? I built a hammer out of Schedule 80 PVC that was probably uh it was probably an inch and a half diameter. It was really big. And I didn't have any good way to fix the weights to the end of it. So what I rigged up ended up looking like kind of like a pipe bomb, like pinned to the end of it. And it had 5-pound Olympic plates on there.
Oh,
Um, and I got video of me swinging this thing around. And at one point, the end cap came off, and these 5-pound Olympic plates go flying like a discus towards the parking lot, full of cars.
okay.
And I just am sitting on that footage. It'll be really useful someday.
I've gone back and looked through my Instagram at like some of my old practices, like in an attempt to kind of let myself know like how far I've come. But I just look at it, I'm like, well, that guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So like, we're two different people at this point.
Yeah.
It doesn't help me.
Yeah, I go back even like a year or 2 years through like old Instagram posts and stuff like that where I was really feeling myself because I had like a huge practice PR or something like that, and I look at it now and it's just like, God, that was worse than my worst throw all season.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you when to go look at mine, but like some of my captions on there are like so stupid. Like I was actually doing something good. I look back, I was like, that's just the worst. And you think you're awesome, and you're even worse now for thinking you're awesome.
Are you
Yeah,
still working on that
you gotta
Adidas?
watch them from older to newer so that you get to watch yourself get better. That's how it works, I think.
Yeah.
you still working on that Adidas sponsorship?
Dude, all I throw in, all I lift in are Adidas, trying to get that contract, but they're not biting. I mean, if I could just get it like an Adidas, like Adidas to like one of my posts, I mean, I got my foot in the door then, so like we'll see. But they're not coming. Really, I'll take any shoe sponsorship, but I think Adidas are the best, so we'll, we're aiming for
I'll
that
take
one.
pretty much any sponsorship. You know, I will put a Fig Newton sticker on my windshield. Like I'll seeking sponsors. Anybody who likes the smell of what I'm stepping in over here.
Yeah, I'm trying to get those podcast sponsorship like Manscaped. Use code 9% off. Use code day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna
use
stop here to thank our sponsor, Casper Mattresses.
just remember, use 9 point day at any of your online shopping. It doesn't do anything, but you can plug it in.
Yeah,
Just type it in there to remember us.
I'm more of a Sattva mattress guy, but that's just me. But
I don't know what podcast you listen to.
I just been seeing Sattva ads, and the reason I don't have a Sattva mattress, but the reason I like them is because they're actual mattresses. They're not just foam blocks that they're passing off as a mattress, which I think people need to get back to. Memory foam's dead. Let's move on.
This has
Back to
actually
waterbeds.
been a ad break for
Yeah,
mattresses.
yeah.
So
So that's just a taste, guys. That's a little free sample.
that's what we could have.
It's what we
Yeah.
could do for you.
But
Uh,
yeah, like you're training, like you're doing, man, you're doing everything that I think people should be doing. You're tracking and logging your throws year after year, and you're looking at the leaderboard and kind of like chasing people. You're finding out where you want to be, what numbers you need to hit to get to that next spot.
and
It's
looking at
funny
the
you say
leaderboard
that.
around yourself. Like when you're sitting ranked 40, maybe don't look at Scott Farr's numbers.
Yeah, I thought all
That's
of
not
those were
relevant.
typos. Like when I first found the games, like I was a year or two into it, and I was throwing like a 26, 28 foot heavyweight, and I was feeling good. And I looked up at, these ridiculous like high 40s heavyweights at the top of the leaderboard, and I was like, that can't possibly be. No, there's a mistake here.
That's not
I'm
a
like,
real number.
I'm like, oh, these fucking guys are actually throwing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, then
Oh,
I think it was 2021. I went to I don't know if this was the first No Fame Games or if it was maybe the second one, but it was smaller in scale than what it is now. I'll say that it was at sort of the backlot field in a high school, and Nick McPhee was there, and he just stomped the life out of me. Like it
yeah.
was like early season, like early beginning of May, and I showed up, stretching out, feeling good. I was like, this guy looks like he might be a lightweight, and I start talking to him, and he's the nicest guy in the whole world. And then he like throws a 39 foot Braemar or something as a warm up, and I was like, that's the kind of day it's going to be, huh? Like I met one of these people finally.
Yeah. You know. So looking at your numbers and kind of like year after year, your NASGA numbers, your heavy athlete numbers, what changed this year? Because you made a quite the jump in 2024.
Um, some things tuned up from being like a fluke throw to being a more consistent routine throw, which is awesome. That's kind of what I hope to see. Like I'll go out there and I'll throw a bomb, and then I won't see that number again for a long time. And it's like it's got to start there, right? It's got to start with that fluke, or it's got to start with that stone that it's like, was that stone legit or not? But then it's going to become consistent and reliable, and now it doesn't matter what the field is, or it doesn't matter what the weather is, or it doesn't matter like what my training cycle's been like. I know I can hit that number now. So like certain things, certain events, they're just never been my strength. I don't have a shot put background at all, so I've always kind of struggled with stones. I don't like my open stone at all. I'm not happy with my open stone. I know that there's a lot more there. um, and I just have failed to crack into it. Somewhere mid-season, I was with Braemar, I was like stagnant, I guess, until I just like made it a priority to fix that. I think it was a rankings thing. I needed to boost my Braemar because it was holding me back, and I just put a lot of focus into that, and it cracked open. So, I started hitting the 33s, 34s fairly routinely, and then finished the year with a 36 that I cannot explain. I mean, we had a 20-pound stone, so there's that. If I'm hitting 33s, 34s with a 22, then a 20-pound stone is going to go maybe that far. But like, I don't know that I'm going to see that number again for a while. We'll see. Um, but yeah, I'm looking at the numbers too, and like certain things they've been holding nicely. Heavyweight has been fairly reliably above 40. Lightweight has been fairly reliably above 60. I still know that both of those things have a lot more they can do, but that's a next year problem. The hammers also picked up quite a bit this year. That was definitely a point of focus thing. That was trying
Yeah.
different things, and that was trying to um, trying to get fast, and
Yeah.
I think my trap with hammers is trying to be strong, and it doesn't fucking work. And if I catch myself being strong, it's like, well, there you go. Like if I'm getting lousy numbers and I look back at the footage, it's like, well, yeah, look at you. You're tense, like you're about to try a deadlift, and no wonder you're slow as hell. So very consciously working on speeding that up and getting longer and looser and improving the balance, and that's come through really well. Um, Sheaf is the same thing, so skip that. And then Wob is probably the other thing that is a limiting factor right now. So Wob, I actually sought out some coaching this year to try to figure that one out because I should be able to throw it higher. I don't know
No.
why I can't throw it higher. Mechanically speaking, I'm doing something wrong and I can't see it. So I got a little help on that, and started to see the 16s come out, but even still, it's like that number should be higher than it is.
Yeah. Well, Wob is dumb for one, but
Disagree.
Now, I,
but
I
like
like it so much, but it's like outside of my little local area, I can't win with Wob.
I'm I guess and like it's kind of the same issue with like with Sheaf that is with Wob. I do enjoy Sheaf a lot more, but it's the fact that like it doesn't help you a ton for the overall day to be like really good at Sheaf or really good at Wob, because unless you're winning, like there's a good chance you're gonna split points with someone in the middle. So like I don't know, it's not a
Well,
favorite.
counterpoint, I played a game of make believe with nationals this year since I couldn't go, and I wrote down before nationals. I wrote down my numbers that I thought I would get, which were like averages from practice, and
Hmm.
um, I said, you know what, I've been doing all right with Wob. Let's say I get 16, and I think 16 would have put me in the bottom half of that pack for sure.
Yep.
Maybe the
Pretty
middle.
sure.
It's
Yeah.
like if I want to contend at that level, I've got to fix that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Like Nationals Wilds tend to be kind of, I don't know, like there'll be maybe one or two people out at 15, 16.
I
Like,
would.
and then almost everyone's out at 17. And then there
Yeah.
might be like 1 to 3 people that clear 17 and move on. There's just a big bottleneck in that like 16 mark. That if you're
Yeah.
in there, it's not going to do too much damage. But if you're on either side, it's going to be a big point swing.
Yeah. And if you like, I guess like I don't know, like my mindset with like Wob and like the quality of Wob throw an individual needs to be, it's it's not miss going up and just middle. Like finish at like for like lightweights, finish at 16, but you're not missing at 14. You're not missing at 15. And
Just start at 16 is fine.
I mean, dude, and I mean, so another thing I was going to say was in the last 2 years, WOB at nationals has been very, very like it's like you said, it's tight, and it didn't seem to always be that way. You had like a wider range of people, but now guys are stepping up.
Well, because I
This
think, and you can fact check me on this, but I think in 2018 nationals, I tied for first or got second on countbacks, clearing 16.
That sounds about right.
I think that's all it was at that time.
I can't fact check countbacks.
this was the first year that I started to have to think about WOB as a technical event. You know, I think I showed up at my first game ever and I might have thrown 14 or close. And after years of training and trying and getting stronger on paper, it was still going 14, 15, maybe on a really hot day scratching 16. But uh, I was watching every other event just going up and up and up because I was watching video and I was picking out pointers and I was correcting what I knew I was doing wrong and I was getting advice and stuff. But with WOB, I was just continuing to huck the thing in the air with the same form that I always was. And it's like, all right, there's technique here that I can't feel and I can't see and I've got to find it, but it's a very, very fast, short little movement.
Well, there's your problem.
I'm doing it too fast and short.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I'll
Yeah,
I'll take your advice.
just like everything else, just all back and bicep, just
It's a sharp jerking motion.
How do we feel about putting it up there?
I'm pretty sure
One-handed,
it's
of course.
legal. Pretty sure it's
It's
legal.
it's one-handed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have to hold the handle or not. I don't know if that's in the rules.
I mean, as long as you're not spinning, it's okay.
I mean, really, that's the play. Is just learn spinning wob.
No. No, I tried it once and I hit myself in the leg with the weight and I said,
Oh
that's
yeah,
enough of
that
that.
happens.
That's
That
enough
can
of that.
happen.
Yeah.
There is so much, like maybe, I mean, every world record is higher spinning than it is standing. So maybe there's more potential there, but I know that I can throw a lot higher standing. So when I've topped out there, I'll learn how to spin. But I'm still like feet away from the best I can do standing. So I'm just going to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Spinning's for the heavyweights. That's not for lightweights. I'm a firm believer in that. Mostly heavyweight masters. That's when it gets really good. Like 41-year-old master who weighs 265 pounds. They could spin a 42 pretty easy.
I think
Yeah.
spinning is for good weight throwers. Like if you can throw weight for distance really well and you have good solid spinning form, of course that should translate, right?
But I've also heard that learning to spin wob translates really well to throwing weight for distance.
I would disagree. When I was spinning, this was probably 2022. I started like the off season between 23 and 22 and 23. I started spinning a bunch in the backyard, and it was going pretty good. I was clearing 15 easily, and I was knocking the door at 16. Um, but technically, I wasn't it wasn't ready for the games yet. But then I go out to the field and I throw heavyweight for distance, and my sprint phase is ginormous. I'm landing with like both feet like over the trig because it is just to one turn a weight for height is so much different than one turning weight for distance. It's like adding a whole separate event that you had to learn, and we already have enough events.
Yes, that is definitely true. It is. The spins are. Well, I don't know that the spins are so different, but the cast is very different.
One thing that I've always thought about doing a bunch, and you can see uh, Christine Rothwell. She does this a lot, where she doesn't side sling, but she sets up like sideways to the bar instead of like throwing like over her head. She's like hucking it to the side, And I think about that every time I practice wob, because every time I release, it's going to go, 6, 7 inches to my right. So if I just
Yeah.
always stand there, even if I let it go a little bit early, because those are the big ones when they just come out early,
Yeah.
it's going to go over. But,
There's that guy in South Dakota that does that too.
oh, does he?
Yeah.
See, yeah. Maybe
I try
these
to get
two people are onto something.
I try to get Tony to do it because his does the same thing pretty bad, but not consistently
Yes.
enough, and it messed with his head standing
Yeah.
sideways.
You got to set it up. You got to stand just right.
Yeah.
He, I seen Barrasso lose it like outside the upright. He pulled it so far right. I was like,
That's
that's unfortunate.
that's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the games, right? Um,
Yeah.
all right, want to do some some nerd bro spectrum.
Yeah. We can get into it. That's why you're here, right?
I've been thinking on this deeply. Go. I want. Yeah. Go ahead.
That's you're kind of all over the board here.
I see. Like I actually thought about this today, and I came in with a number in my head already, but we'll see if it changes.
All right. What do you got?
So all right. So do you have like let's start off with the nerd stuff. Do you have like a favorite like fantasy series, whether it be books or a movie?
Um, I'm not super duper deep on anything, but I do enjoy a widespread. Like I'm I'm fluent, I'm well versed in my Star Wars, pretty good in my Star Trek. If I had a favorite, I was actually thinking this would be a really good filter question here for Bro Nerd is like the Alien and Predator series. If somebody comes down on the Alien side versus if they come down on the Predator side. I love them all and have watched them all numerous times. So does that count?
That's
Yeah,
something.
that
Like
counts. Yeah.
fantasy wise, again, I am it's definitely a Lord of the Rings and Hobbit fan. Haven't read the books though, so that's probably a box on your sheet there.
When
Yeah, it's
did you watch the newest Alien movie,
Yeah,
Romulus?
I just watched it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I watched it with my wife, and she's pregnant right now, and she's like, "Is this going to be scary and like give me nightmares and stuff?" And I was like, no, it'd probably be good." And then she gets like 3/4 of the way through, and she's like, "All right, well, this movie's taking too long. I'm tired. I want to go to bed." And then it comes out to like at the end there, it's like the worst thing for like a pregnant woman to see before she has to go to bed. And I was
Yeah.
like, like she missed it. Like, thank God she's not here to see that,
Yeah.
because that
We
was
had
messed up.
we had the exact same experience here, except my pregnant wife did see that ending, and
Oh God.
it was off-putting. Yeah, yeah. What did you think of the most recent one though? Because I had issues with it.
I thought it was just like all the rest of them. I I pointed out who's going to die next, and they
Mm,
follow a very very tight script, and they're good. It's very like I
sure.
think it was good.
Are
I'm
you
not. I'm not.
saying that Alien is the Hallmark movie of horror?
Space horror. Yeah.
uh, yeah.
Okay. First of all,
If you're into your space horror, honorable mention, Event Horizon.
I
Yep.
don't know. I don't know if I've seen that. That sounds familiar.
I'm
Event
familiar with it. I
Horizon.
don't think I've seen it.
Event Horizon keeps you like it's kind of like keeps you in like a kind of a spooky mild sense of tension the whole time, and then at certain point it goes off the rails so hard that you it leaves an impression. You remember it, and highly recommend.
I want to write that down. I want to check it out. Um, but since you brought up Hallmark movies, previously I've mentioned that we're not a Hallmark movie household. Um, I said that my wife generally keeps that like to herself and doesn't have to expose the rest of us to it. I've been corrected. Uh, she's been blasting a bunch of Hallmark movies, and I'm just enduring it. I cannot stand it. They make me so mad.
I don't think I've ever seen one. I feel like but at the same time, from like all the internet stuff, I feel like I've seen them all,
Right.
you know?
Probably true.
I did see one the other day, and this is the only Hallmark movie I'll say is good. The plot is, as you can imagine, just like every Hallmark movie, but it had Katie Sackhoff in it. She was a Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica, and then her dad in the show was John Locke from TV's Lost. And I was like, these are my top two favorite shows of all time. They got some of the main characters in it. Good job, Hallmark. Okay, no, so you're not like you like Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like
I
how
mean,
like how deep does
yeah.
that go? Like, do
Um,
you have like a Grogu pillow that like you have with you
no,
right now?
no.
Because you're
There's
an adult
limits.
man.
Like, right. Like like it's not like I've seen everything that's ever come out that has Star Wars on it. Have I seen all of the children's stuff, the Lego Star Wars and the animated series and stuff like that? No.
You
Do
probably
I
should.
do I understand fully what people are talking about when they are having, the deep Star Wars conversations? Yeah, I'm right there.
Okay,
Uh, yeah.
that's pretty light. That's
Um,
pretty light on the nerddom.
yeah, I mean like I said,
Yeah.
it's a pretty wide spectrum. I gotta stay literate in these
Hmm.
different franchises, and I do enjoy them. I just don't go so deep. I will watch. I'm trying to think like of the bazillion episodes of Star Trek, like most of those series I haven't really even cracked into. I watched a good amount of Next Generation. I really liked the newer, more recent movies that came out, all of those, and so that's probably not deep Star Trek territory at all. But I would say that, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's for you to decide.
Yeah, that's pretty light. I did watch the I've seen the new Star Trek movies, the newer ones. Those make Star Trek look really cool because TV Star Trek did not hit for me at all. I thought that was the most boringest, TVest kind of stuff.
No, the
But the
original
movies,
series is I I'm sure it was very cool when it came out. I
yeah,
can't go back and watch it now. The first one to me that seemed like it was kind of like fun to watch on TV was Next Generation, and that was like partly fun because of the 80s-ness of it, you know?
hmm like Next Generation, or like just the Star Trek shows reminds me a lot of like all the shit my grandpa used to watch. My grandpa's a big sci-fi guy. When he came over to anytime he's over our house, like he commandeers the TV and he's putting on the Sci-Fi channel. And so like it's a lot of like Stargate, SG-1, Stargate Babylon, and I just kind of like think of like all those shows like in that same vein. But
Yeah, I there's usually if I got to just like pick a movie, like if we're sitting down to watch a movie and I got to pick anything from any genre, I am likely to go towards the sci-fi, but plenty of things they just don't have like the same deep catalog,
Mm, yeah.
So, but they come in handy, in my profession all the time. There's some convoluted thing, and I have to be able to explain it. And if I can just say, like in Gattaca, and any kid who saw that movie is going to be like, "Oh, yeah, all right, I'm with you."
okay, you got a question, Austin?
Sure. Nothing on the tip of my tongue, but so played lacrosse in high school through college
Yeah,
or just high school?
no, just high school.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it was contact sport. It was fun. It's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was very broy at times too, but what are you gonna do?
It'll do that. And then you log all your throws. Do you also have your lift PRs just in your head all the time?
I have my main lift PRs in my head, like my big three. I don't maintain weight room PRs outside of that. I have my throw PRs logged. I have a lot of spreadsheets.
Nice.
I have a lot of spreadsheets. I have a lot of Highland Games spreadsheets. Somebody brought it to my attention recently that like that there's a lot of them, I guess. But yeah, my approach to the weight room is not scientific, and that's probably I don't know if that's a point in the bro category because a lot of your
I,
guests get into their training regimen and they talk about the nitpicky way that they kind of like track their progress and keep track of their training and all of that. And like, I think that comes from a background in strength sports, which I don't have. When I was in high school and some coach at some point was telling me how to lift, they were like, here's a few exercises, do 3 sets of 10 of each one and then move on. And so like, that is how I have trained my entire life.
I believe the term is bro science.
Sure. So like it was within the last year or two that I've heard everybody throwing around this word programming and who does my programming and I write my own programming and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I pick out my own lifts too. And I'm starting to appreciate just how much science there is to absorb there, and I'm still probably just going to keep picking up the heavy circles until I get better.
It's not
It
a bad
works.
plan.
It is. It's
If you,
working.
yeah, lift
It's
85% of your max every day for the next 10 years, and that's how you get strong.
sure. I
I,
that sounds reasonable to me. What do
yeah,
I know?
can't argue.
No,
What could go wrong?
maybe I could be doing much better if I started to pay that level of attention to my weight room work and my diet and everything else, but I don't. I just try to keep good habits. I know in general what's good for me and bad for me, and I try to do more of the good and less of the bad and trend in the right direction. And if I start leveling off, I change something.
So, how'd you get into robotics?
Hmm. Well, I used to teach a bit of it. So I'm a technology teacher. That's my job title. In the state, it is that could be anything from traditional shop classes to engineering to computer science to a lot of different things. Um, and I used to teach a lot of different things at different age levels. Uh, Woodworking, CAD design, engineering, some robotics, construction, manufacturing, a lot of stuff. Um, Now I teach engineering and architecture to high school kids, and I'm a coach for our school robotics team, FRC Team 20, Go Rocketeers. Um, I guess I got bamboozled into it. They knew that I was a pretty new teacher there, and they knew that I had taught a bit of robotics before, and had free time. And they said, "Hey, how'd you like to be a coach?" I didn't know what I was getting into, and what the demands would be. And the first couple of years, I just I showed up and I was basically a set of keys. It was like, "Hey, we need into this room or this cabinet. Can you open it?" And I would try to be involved and help with the robot, and they're like, "You don't know anything. Get out of here." And now I'm like 6 years into it, and I feel like I almost understand how it works. And it's funny because I am by far the broiest person there. By far, I'm the broiest person in the history of that program. But it's in Highland Games terms, I'm a robotics coach, so I might be the nerdiest person here. I'm not sure.
So,
Possible.
did you ever watch like BattleBots, like the original BattleBots?
No,
What about the
I've
new
seen it.
BattleBots?
I've seen clips and stuff from it. I didn't watch it like regularly.
Hmm. Okay. What other questions do we ask people? It's been a minute since
It
we've gone down
has. It
this
has.
rabbit hole.
So one of the things that you've asked before is, did you have a kilt before the Highland Games, or did you
Mm.
get a kilt for the Highland Games? And when I went to the first Scottish Games that I ever went to in 2008, and I saw all the stuff, and I came home all feeling good about it. I went online and I bought a sport kilt for myself, and I would wear that to high school. Um, which, was weird, but being weird is fun in high school.
Yeah.
Um, and so I had that kilt for years before I even considered throwing.
So okay. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. Okay. So you wore a kilt to high school?
Uh-huh.
Like, how'd that go over with your classmates?
It was on brand, honestly. I don't think it was all that surprising. It was it was always a fun day in school, you know. The first time that I came in, I remember being at my locker and having a principal come to me because word had gotten to him in the time it took me to get from the front door to my locker. Word had gotten to him that Mac Dillman had a kilt on, and they had to go follow up on this. So he comes in and had me actually literally had me do like the fingertip test that they have the girls do to see if it's of appropriate
Oh,
length. And he had
This
to
is fair.
confirm if I was, wearing anything underneath it. And I was like, well, it's not really any of your business, is it? I had to give him a hard time, but that was it.
Did
Yeah,
he
I was the kill
did he
kid.
check if you had a knife in your sock?
Not that time.
Because they should. That should be like the first thing you check.
Yeah, they probably should, right? No, that was pretty tame. I got away with a lot of things in high school. They were like, if the worst thing he's doing is wearing a kilt today, just let him be.
Fair.
do you read for pleasure?
I like a good audiobook. I don't finish paper
That's
books.
that's
I
reading
It's
buy
though.
them.
hard.
Yeah,
I buy
audiobook.
them with all the best intentions, but the only way I'm going to finish one is on audio.
What do you currently listen to right now?
I am on a very long slog through Atlas Shrugged. Uh, when I'm on like the 3 or 4 hour drives to games, that's what I listen to. But that audiobook is like 51 hours long. So
Mhm.
I feel like, wow, I just made a lot of headway through this, and it's like barely a drop in the bucket. And I think I
80,
have
82 hours.
it's a long one. I'm loving it, but it's long. And then I think I have another one unfinished in there too, which is 1491, which is a little more um, historical.
Yeah. What are you listening to Alice Shrugged on? Like Audible or Hoopla?
Mm, I think I bought it. I think I bought it on it's like in my Apple Books library.
I'm avoiding buying it because I already bought one. I have a paperback back here that
Uh
it's a.
I've I've
I've
fallen into that
tried.
trap too. The books I'll never read because I bought them on paperback and now I'm too cheap to buy them on audio.
Yeah. So when I was told to read Ayn Rand, someone suggested Atlas Shrugged, and they're wrong. That's not the Ayn Rand book to do. The Fountainhead is the one to read. If you haven't read The Fountainhead, read it. It's very good. It's probably her best work from a weird angry cat lady that she was. The Fountainhead's very good. And then Anthem is like the second best of like just her writing and getting her idea across.
Are you familiar with the Art of Manliness podcast?
Yes.
Yep.
So years ago, somebody gave me like for a Christmas present or something like that. They gave me a little book duo from The Art of Manliness, and one of the books was like little skills and tricks for how to pick the right suit for the occasion and that kind
Mm.
of thing. And the other one was sort of an anthology of just like um, I don't know, all kinds of things that were interesting to read, short reads. But the back of it had like a list of 100 books that every man should read in their lifetime, and I've just been kind of using it as like a jumping off point to pick something,
Mm.
so that I've always kind of got something going. And that has been interesting. I've, probably knocked 20 or 30 of them off of that list, but there's no continuity to any of it. It's like, all right, well, I just got off of one that was, fiction and short, and now I'm onto one that is nonfiction and long. And, some of them are like the Iliad and the Odyssey and things like that. And then other ones are like, um, the Maltese Falcon. And it's like, cool. All right, I'm going to have like a relatively short, interesting, fun read, or I'm going to have like this very long, deep thing that I need to listen to hard and pay attention.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I've seen that list, the Art of Manliness book list. Um, I've checked off a few of them, but they are he's one who kind of got me onto Teddy Roosevelt. That guy,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
he had a whole like there's probably like 15 years ago at this point where he had like a whole thing where he's dove deep into Teddy Roosevelt, and he gave himself a mustache after that, whatever the guy's name is. But he's an interesting guy. Teddy Roosevelt
No.
was.
No.
Yeah. Definitely read that one off the list. I think there might be two Teddy Roosevelt books on that list, and I
Yeah,
know I've been through his autobiography.
he's got the good ones. There's a couple Teddy Roosevelt books that just aren't that good, but the ones that he recommended were are the good ones. But
But it's like Teddy Roosevelt just has a lot. Like, there's a big body of work around Teddy Roosevelt. Like, he's not
yeah,
as bad as like Abraham Lincoln or World War II, where there's just like way too much,
More
and
yeah.
than
then
you can
people just need to
possibly digest.
stop. But Roosevelt's pretty popular. He's got a lot of
Where's
work,
all that effort for my boy Calvin Coolidge? Like,
right?
See, I'm not a big fan of presidents in general, but especially modern ones. The older ones, I like to look back and like read about them, not their policies and what they've done, just like the character that is them. I like that because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of Theodore Roosevelt's policies I think are stupid, but he's an interesting cat, and like the strenuous life is the life to live. What other questions we got for the bro nerd?
Oh,
Do you think Die Hard's a Christmas movie?
yeah, I just watched Die Hard again like yesterday
nice.
What
to
about Lethal
confirm.
Weapon?
I was Lethal Weapon. I haven't. I I've seen. I haven't seen Lethal Weapon. I've seen Lethal Weapon 4 25 times. So
That's
Exactly. Do you have
that's
a
so
tally?
weird.
Is that one of
I
your spreadsheets?
no, it's like, I don't know if your family was like this, but when I was a kid, we had 50 VHS tapes,
Yeah,
and that was one of them.
yeah.
That The Princess Bride for me was one of them that got a lot of got a lot of airtime at my house.
Hmm.
We
Yeah,
had the
still
box
that one's
set
still on my
of
list actually.
we had the box list or box set of Lethal Weapons, and Lethal Weapons is one of my top five favorite movies, maybe top 10 favorite movies of all time.
Is Lethal
Because
Weapon a Christmas movie?
yes, it's the same theory a Christmas movie as Die Hard is, right? It's set in
Okay.
Christmas time.
Have-
One of my
Yeah.
favorite this is one of
Okay.
my favorite scenes in any movies. Martin Riggs, played by Mel Gibson, uh, he's like the first scenes like you see him in, he's like busting like a drug bust that's like at a Christmas tree farm, and like he gets all weird and like I don't know, like breaks up the drug bust, and then he proceeds to do this move. Like he jumps on the ground with his Beretta 9mm and is like rolling around, like doing a barrel roll on the ground, shooting as he's like going around in a circle, wearing skin tight Wranglers and cowboy boots. And I was like, this man is awesome. He's got like the flowing mullet. It's the coolest thing ever. Martin Riggs is a vibe, but I digest. It's a Christmas movie, but I don't know. I have my I don't know my numbers for you. If you guys are ready for it.
Lay it on me.
Sure. Shoot.
Okay, you are a 90-10 nerd. That's
I
kind of
was
what I came in like thinking, and I was waiting for you to sway me, and you didn't. The lacrosse was like your only hope, but like the way you described your lacrosse years, I was like, no, he's just a nerd. He's a nerd playing a game.
That's very much how my lacrosse years were. There were the
Yeah.
bros. They were very good friends with each other. I was on the team, and I was pretty good at it, and I was just not cut from the same cloth. But it's all good.
Yeah, I was around the I was gonna say 80-20 nerd.
80-20. Okay. Yeah, I was probably coming in a little closer to that 90-10, but I was like 80-20, 90-10, yeah, something like that. I find myself doing a lot of Highland Games math that I don't want to be doing, but I've at this point designed a bunch of different like sets of standards or hammer cages for people, and like that's some of the spreadsheets. I have a bunch of different versions of those plans and CAD models of that shit, and it's like it's hard to come back from that. The only other bro thing I was even gonna even gonna consider, I knew lacrosse was gonna be a tick on that side, but just the approach to the weight room that I do not take it scientifically at all. I just go in there and I have my pre-workout and I lift the weights and then I have my protein and I go home. I feel like that's a broy approach to that, but that's okay.
Yeah,
See, and like you can even make the argument that that's a nerdy approach to it because
Oh no.
like well like you're not nerding out like you're not like obsessing over the weight room like a bro would. You're just like I'm going to go do my work because this is what's required to get this goal. It's
See,
not
I think
like
when you get the people who are just that, that very, very meticulous about how they track and plan and monitor their training, that's nerdiness. They're being a nerd about weightlifting, and it's fine, but
but
that's a
like that's
nerdy thing to
but
do.
like I think it's just obsession
it's
because
true.
like if you're like reading all the training books and like you're like reading you're on PubMed looking at studies and stuff like that, that could fall easily into just bro behavior because you're just obsessed with the iron. You're trying to make the iron better.
No, but for me, like the bro lifting attitude is hearing something that sounds like something you want to do, and then having that be your lifting gospel, and not worry about like the actual science on if it works, but hit biceps every day anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're torn on
Yeah,
that. But you
So
did bring up the standards in the hammer cage and stuff like that, and I was going to bring that up that is the way they're built is built by a nerd because
the
I
shit
threw in
doesn't
one
fall
and
down though, does it?
yeah, hammer cage in Maine was nice. It took a hammer like a champ and it looked good doing it. A nerd built that.
do you
Thank you.
do you have a favorite spreadsheet function?
This week, yes, I'm getting into pivot tables,
Oh yeah,
and
no, those are nice.
yeah, I've inherited the purchasing and inventory responsibilities for my robotics team, and I'm having a blast logging all of that shit in my spreadsheets and figuring out where we're spending our money.
No, pivot tables are great for that.
Hmm.
Ninety
So, yep.
ten.
Yeah,
this
no
this
argument here.
week. That's awesome.
My nerdy kids at school are going to be thrilled when they eventually find this and learn that.
I'm assuming that it will be viral and be all in the schools within the week.
Yeah, yes, I have a YouTube channel that I've used since I started teaching. It's from like 2014. And at first I was using it for some of my own things as well as like educational videos and stuff. So there's old videos in there of me like doing hikes and skydiving and things like that. And my kids, when they're on there for school, immediately find all of that stuff. And it's like instead of, okay, I gave you like a 2 minute thing to watch on how to do this thing. And they're like, no, let's see what your face does when you're falling out of an airplane, and they'll like take that screenshot and go to the next level with it. Like they'll put it onto their assignments when they submit them, and there's nothing I can put on the internet that they will not find right away.
Perfect.
How many how many times have
Haven't
you gone
you shown up
skydiving?
with your face on a shirt?
Oh, that'd be funny.
No, but when's this going live? Because about the day after that, somebody's going to do it.
So
Perfect. I'm
How many
glad I
how
can
many
help.
times you been skydiving?
Twice.
That's weird.
That you
I
would
like
go,
the
or that you would go twice?
no, I don't know. I like the idea of skydiving, but like it just feels so frivolous, especially at this point with like two and a half kids. Like it
It's
seems
gotta be
like
past the halfway mark, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, like,
yeah.
I did that when I was younger. I didn't have kids, and I think it cost something like $300 to do it, and I don't know what you compare that to, but it was an experience, and it was I thought very worth it. If
That
you haven't
feels
been skydiving, I recommend going. And it'll tune you up. If you're afraid of heights, I feel like you won't be anymore. It helps you, helps you just kind of push past that unpleasant moment.
I found out I was afraid of heights recently. Um, like I've never like if we're like on a cliffside or whatever, and I'm sitting like on a cliff or whatever, like enjoying the view and like kind of feeling like a little bit rushed, like I'm on the edge, and someone comes near me, I'm like, okay, you're too close. Like, we don't have to touch right now. I get a little weird about like that. But I was going to driving to Maine, we stopped in like Erie, Pennsylvania, and like went to the lake. They had like a giant like lookout tower there. You can go up and I'm like, yeah, let's go up top of this tower and hang out for a little bit. And I went up there and they opened the door and I was like, oh crap. And it's a giant like big safe concrete like lighthouse tower type thing. But I was just touching the side the entire time. I want to go near the edge. And my kids are running around and I'm like, stop. I don't know why. I'm like, obviously I'm afraid of heights. That's fun.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm also worried like skydiving that I would pee my pants and like not even mean to like a fight or flight scenario just happens and I
Probably
was
not.
you don't know how weak my bladder is, son.
It's a good time. I would go again, but only if it was going to be like really cheap. I don't now I just wouldn't spend the money to go again.
see, but then like that doesn't feel like something that I want to save money on.
Not saying okay, fair.
Black
All right, I
Friday
see how that
deals.
sounded. I see how that sounded now. Actually, the first place that I went, like I didn't know any different, but we're in the airplane taking off, and I'm looking out the window, and there is duct tape coming off of that plane, like it's flapping around like this, and I was like, huh. I mean, at least we have parachutes.
Right?
Yeah.
So worst that could happen, we got to jump out of this thing and parachute to safety. That's what we're doing anyway.
Yeah, there's one thing that makes TSA more suspicious than anything is like a guy that travels with a parachute on planes. Because you can like there's like every airline has like the rules for like parachutes and apparently TSA like gets really freaked out when you bring one because they're like, what are you planning on? It's called fear. I'm planning on fear.
Better
But
better have it and not need it.
I guess I just I don't know. I always want to go down the
Can you even
slides on the airplane. That
yeah?
sounds cool.
But can you even open up an airplane door while it's flying on a
I
commercial
think
plane?
I think you can. I think they say you can't, but I'm pretty sure you can.
I've
But
never tried. I
all right, next
don't
next
plan on
time
trying.
next time we're on a plane, let's make a pact right now. Next time any of us are on a plane, we try. I don't
Or
fly,
we
so
ask.
no,
It would
no.
be
Push
fun
your
to
way
figure.
past the stewardess and get up there. Knock on the captain's door first. Jiggle the handle. But well, we're coming up on time. Do
Yeah.
you have anything you want to plug?
Plug. Yeah, sure. Um, if you are in the northeast part of the country, especially upstate New York, check out the Empire Throwing Club. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. If you follow the page, you'll get the news about our events. If you if you join the private group, then you'll hear all of the chatter about open practices and sign-ups for our events and gear swapping and all that lovely stuff that goes on. Um, for the 2025 season, we are taking some things and making them a little bit bigger and better, which I'm looking forward to very much. Our Memorial Day game at the Great Sacandaga Brewing Company, the Broad Alban Gathering and Games, um, is going to be happening again this year. This year, it's going to be a team format, and it's going to be a charity games.
Nice.
Because it is Memorial Day weekend, we're trying to lean into that a little bit. We're trying to get some of the veterans organizations involved. And the plan is that everybody's going to sign up. They're going to compete within their class like normal. But in addition to that, you're also, when you're signing up, you're picking a team red, team white, team blue. And each team is going to be throwing for a different veterans charity it's going to be local to our area. And so we're going to, while we're keeping track of game score and everything, at the same time, we'll be keeping sort of a decathlon score running. So if your team, which could have members from all different classes, but if your team puts up the highest numbers overall for the day, that charity is going to get an extra, little bonus donation at the end. So that should be pretty cool. Keg tossing after, as always. That one was fun. The athlete of the day prize for that is that you get onto the beer can for next year. This year they made us a special beer for that event, and that's the one that we saw with John Van Buren on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just Googled Highland Games thrower, and John Van Buren came up first. So they put him on the beer can, and this was a surprise for us. Like, we didn't know this was going to happen. So they shared out the pictures and like big release, and we're like, oh, we know that guy. Like, that's a real guy. He's going to see this right away.
Yeah.
And he did. So thankfully, he was super cool about it. And so he was on the inaugural beer can. And then last year, Katie Vaudrin won Athlete of the Day, so she'll be on the beer can this year, and we'll pick a new person for the beer can next year. So that's coming up. We'll have our training day again, which will be very cool. Planning on adding this year, in addition to the Highland Games training clinic, we're also going to hopefully be putting on a judges training clinic to try to build our network of certified judges up in the Northeast. So that'll be pretty cool. Keep an eye out for that. And new things coming up in the Long Island Scottish Festival. Not sure exactly what yet, but stay tuned there. We've got a fundraiser coming up that needs to get nailed down, but it is shaping up to be just so much fun, and I really hope that that we're able to follow through on it. The Thistle Day Highland Games in Argyle, New York, at the end of September, will play host to the New York State Championships this coming year. So that'll be awesome, and it'll also be a stop on the New York State Thruway Tour, which is also a new thing this year. Four different games all along the New York State Thruway. If you show up to all of them and you compete, you get a special prize for doing so. So trying to get some people out of their little bubble and go into more of the games that we have in the state. So that's what I know. Those are my plugs.
Awesome. You got anything? Any final thoughts?
No, I think I'm good. It was good talking to you.
Perfect. Thank you for coming on. That's it, guys.
My pleasure.
And as
Thanks
always,
for having me.
so far.
See you again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. God bless.